1-on-1, and both players are on the road as well. So
I don't know, one of them's odd.
and none of them are even.
Right.
I lied. I'm sorry.
This is regular rogue.
The viewers will catch up on that one.
Yeah, sorry, inside jokes that none of you understood. Completely pointless start to our cast, starting as we mean to go on. But yeah, I do really enjoy this matchup personally. From the Quest Rogue side, is actually where I've played the most of it in this current metagame. Really, really interesting matchup for me because I actually found the most success as the Quest Rogue playing slowly in this matchup, trying to grind out Giggling Inventors, looking for like Giggling Sonya curves, looking for Giggling Shadow Step, looking for Giggling Brewmaster, that kind of stuff, and then maybe even finishing your quest on like turn 10 if you go like Valera into double Giggling Inventor on 10 as like your 4th and 5th Giggling. Obviously that's a dream scenario to try and line up, but it's the kind of thing you sometimes have to look for.
Yeah, and especially with both classes being the same, I think it's a great example of a linear deck versus a very non-linear deck. Because once you've just said, well, you Quest Rogue, you play slow and you get Giggling Inventors out. Why is that okay? Because Odd Rogue can only hit you in the face with minions and weapons.
Right.
There is no other real way to finish out the game. So if you have the Giggling Inventors later and you can sort of line up the amount of attacks into those Annoyatrons and you can keep doing it, well, there's no magical other way. You know, there's no like double fireball coming out from Rogue, especially Odd Rogue with no eviscerates. So it becomes very straightforward as a win condition for NoName, but it is getting there that is the issue. And Hoej, very strong aggro player, I think. Even though he did favor a lot of Reno Warlock and Control Warlocks, you know, quite a long time ago now, of course. But he does like his aggro, and I think it's going to be a tough one for NoName right now.
He's just a very strong player. I don't really like assign any kind of archetype preference to Hoej. I think he's very good at identifying what the best decks in the meta are and just kind of learning those to the highest level for that period of time, but then also noticing when it changes and then switching up his style.
Yeah, I think outside of Quest Rogue China, which we were all there for, you know, that was a great performance from Hoej with that deck. Outside of that, I think he's just... I remember some of the best plays being from aggro lineups and aggro decks. I think his reach and his timing of when to go all in, when not to, when to trade is actually very, very strong indeed.
Secret Paladin back in the DreamHack days.
Yeah.
You remember that? Absurdity where he
just was unbeaten or something.
Yeah,
he
finished a tournament like 23-2 with Secret Paladin like throughout the entire run, just because it was deck.
And that might sound like a weird number, but it was last hero standing. Yeah.
No.
And again, you might think, well, Secret Paladin was easy, derp, but it's actually pretty hard, actually, when you're playing against other players who are also very good and know how to deal with it.
Yeah, what people who play this game at a casual level like can struggle to understand is that no deck is easy when you're playing against the best players in the world.
Yes,
that's not how it works.
Because you're not going to trick anyone, are you? You know, like on ladder, for example, you can just win because they don't realize you play a snipe in your hunter deck. Admirable. But you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't happen in tournaments like this, especially because the deck lists are open, but also because the players are, one, exceptional, two, very prepared for the format.
So, NoName has kind of been forced into the Glacial Shard route, which isn't quite good enough to stall in this matchup, because Quest Rogue can just go so wide, and, you know, if you can't freeze their entire board, then they still have targets for Fungalmancer, they still have targets for Cold Blood. So now NoName is kind of stuck in a position where he's kind of just begging for a Vanish off the top in the coming turns, and with no Giggling Inventor to drop here, he's in pretty sticky shape. But you can see NoName actually had plays that were more aggressive, developed more power. Hoej had more aggressive plays with, like, you know, Deckhand SI7 or Fungalmancer. But what he did going into turn 5 from Quest Rogue is he put 7 attacks on the board. So he knows now if Giggling Inventor were to come down, he can punch through, he can push face damage, but most importantly, he can kill that 2-1 body. Because if he kills that 2-1 body, he wins the game.
Yeah, I think as well, even with a Vanish, it still wouldn't be that bad for Hoej. Hoej can just reset. Unless it's exactly
there's a prep though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless you have prep, Vanish, something.
And he's already started the bounce on a minion that he has in hand, so he can actually progress quest while prep vanishing as well.
I was just meaning, it's not a matchup and the minions on board are not ones that are tricky for Hoej to just replay back on the board. It was just a clean Vanish. So the Wax Elemental, one of the cards that has seen cuts for cards like Man of Knives. It's going to be played, it's not going to be cut from NoName's list, and you start to see the value of it. And I actually quite like Wax Elemental. I'm no expert Quest Rogue player, but it's a card that I wouldn't jump to first to cut from the list.
I think it's a little bit surplus to requirements in some matchups. It doesn't really do a lot against aggro apart from gain you some health. It's not like it fights for board for you, right? Like, it's just there to be irritating. The other thing it does very well is it's one of the best minions to go infinite with in the hyper-greedy matchups. Like, for example, against Odd Warrior, Wax Elemental, Zola, 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 when you're in Valera conditions, is like the most sticky board you can make that's infinite for the rest of the game. But again, you beat Odd Warrior doing whatever you want after you played Valera. So I can understand the logic of cutting it because it does seem a little bit unnecessary, but I personally haven't tried it myself.
Yeah, I like it because early game, for example, in these high pressure scenarios in aggro, it gets you to the turns where you can do the funky stuff of the bouncing and the shadow steps, the brewmasters to bounce. It gets you there a little bit safer, so that's why I personally like it. But Hoej did end up taking the win. There wasn't quite all the pieces into the top 8 cut, so he's going to be playing for playoffs, for championship, sorry, for the rest of the day. But for now, let's get into it. It's Shaman for NoName, and Hoej has his token druid left.
He does, and he starts to try and take the board very aggressively with Power of the Wild as a Panther, something that we've seen quite a lot in this tournament, actually, specifically. A lot of people just understanding the value in certain matchups of just getting on the board and just pushing damage early, because if you don't play your Power of the Wild as a 2-drop with this deck, although we, call it an aggressive deck a lot of the time, it really, like, if you don't play your 3-2 Panther, what are you doing until turn 4 when maybe you can YOLO Whispering Woods in some matchups? But beyond that, you're just ramping up and you're just playing a very slow, grindy game until you're able to generate those massive sticky board states later on.
Yeah, and with the powerful cards that Token Druid has evolved to kind of have right now, Power of the Wild isn't the be-all and end-all in terms of board buffs, right?
No.
A lot of the time for the big turns, you're looking double Savage Roar, branching paths to do all the damage. So it's often brought down. A lot of times try and avoid a Defile turn on your Whispering Woods, Soul the Forest, and then you'd like Power of the Wild as well on top to make it a little bit more difficult to deal with the board. But in general, it's just played as that 3-2, and I quite like it, to be honest. Count a bit of pressure, make your opponent do something, because they would be happily passing every turn if the Druid is as well.
As it stands, this Violet Teacher is going to run wild because there's not a particularly clean answer to it. Swipe takes care of this board state now from NoName, starts generating at least one token from Hoej, and then you're already in a world where NoName has to think about using this Volcano that he has in hand sooner rather than later, because as soon as you let that board state spread wide and a Soul of the Forest comes down on it, you are boned.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do you need to swipe this turn? The problem is Wild Growth puts you at weird mana costs that don't really have a huge impact on the key turns for Hoej and the Druid. But you could just Wild Growth, Hero Power down the 2-1 and trade the 3-2.
It's true.
Because again, it's Hex or Volcano and then that's just one Violet Teacher, great.
I enjoy this 3-2 though. I quite like hitting him with it a lot.
You enjoy a good 3-2 in the morning.
Yeah. He played it on 2. That signals the intention to me of hitting him with it.
No. I guess there aren't too many swipe targets. I was thinking if Sirenite Chain Gang ever gets quite annoying, but you do have the 3 attack minions on board, I suppose. So I think the thing that pushed it over the edge is probably just the Wild Growth not hitting good mana cost.
Yeah,
right? It's like you go to 6, but you nourish it. You nourish it to 7 or 8, which you're going to Malfurion anyway. It doesn't matter.
To me, like, that turn, having a 3-2 beat stick for another couple of turns just felt more important than having 6 mana this turn, which, as you said, does nothing. Like,
or 3-2 Beast Stick.
Beast Stick, yeah, very nice. This feels like a better Wild Growth turn, though, because then you are getting into that Malfurion mana on the following turn. But I guess he can just do that with the Nourish anyway, keep Wild Growth for cycle later on if he needs to.
Or he could go the opposite way. Wild Growth this turn and you use the Nourish for cycle later. The cycle's more cards. I think Nourish in general, you just get more.
Yes.
You just get stuff.
Yes.
And also, the second you draw a UI...
I mean, the way to look at Nourish is like, no one ever played Nourish until it was regularly being used to ramp, right? No one put Nourish in their deck just to draw 3 cards, because 5 mana draw 3 is terrible. It's just not a good thing to be doing. So if you're nourishing for cards, it's usually because you're being forced to do that and you're unhappy about it. 5 mana gain 2 mana, as weird as it sounds, is actually really, really strong.
Yeah, I think late game Nourish for cards is absolutely fine in this deck. I don't think you're super upset because a lot of the rest of your mana you can spend doing good things, but it's not what you intend to use it
And
for.
to clarify my point, if you're like nourishing for cards, it's because you haven't UI'd.
Yes.
Right? It's something that you're being forced to do that you didn't want to.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, the Nourish for ramp also, on the other side of the UI point, means that the second you draw UI, you've got less cards in hand, which is the important part.
Well, this is getting very messy.
I'm a huge fan of playing Malfurion almost as soon as you can in almost every single matchup. Being able to have the choice to just deal 3 is pretty good. And you're putting more tokens onto the board, especially in Token Druid, it ticks the boxes, doesn't it? It's insane.
What to do?
3, 6, 7, 8 plus 10. He has 18 damage this turn with Savage Roar, which would already put NoName in a position where Healing Rain is borderline essential, and Healing Rain and Volcano can't be cast on the following turn. So Savage Roar Giggling Inventor actually makes your opponent do a lot of things this turn. If you were to just push the damage and play the Giggles.
Does this not kind of do the same anyway?
It does, but you're not necessarily forcing your opponent to heal, right? Because if they clear enough of the board where Savage Roar isn't threatening lethal on them anyway. I was not saying I don't like this play. Obviously, playing Malfurion when you have mana to play Malfurion, as you said, is usually a fairly safe bet. It's just the Savage Roar just popped into my head.
I think for me, in this matchup, with my experience at least, I don't feel the need that often to try and be fancy. Because I think you have so much pressure that, well, if they Volcano, they have less mana next turn, and then they have to clear the next wave, and they often can't clear more than 2 waves. And we've not even seen Soul the Forest yet, which causes other issues for the Shaman as well. And you've seen it with Savage Roar on its own, plus the Malfurion Hero Power slowly stacking up. He nearly had lethal last turn, and he didn't really do anything this game. So this is only going to get progressively worse, I think, for NoName. There's Nourish number 2. It's kind of the card you want to dodge. You don't really want to ever draw the second one, do you?
Not particularly, no.
That can always be the 30th card in the deck if you were planning it out.
Right. I just feel like these next couple of turns are now just a little bit awkward, because NoName just had the freedom to take a nice Volcano.
Do you not just think, is Violet Teacher Giggling just too much of a reach? An overextension, should I say? Is a better phrase.
No, I don't think it's too much of an overextension. In fact, it might be what you have to do here, and then just rely on a refill being found off.
Well, you have draw 3 worst case.
Right. The question is like whether something else is an underextension. I guess this is like the halfway house. Just looking for
halfway.
Just looking for more Soul the Forest tools.
I mean, all of those are good cards. It's one thing I think is extremely powerful about Token Druid right now is that it's like the deck's just split into thirds. 1/3 of your deck does one job, another third of your deck does the other job you need, and the last third of the deck does the final job you need, and that's it. So your draw is so consistent. What can NoName do to deal with this? What's NoName's game plan here? Well, I mean, that's a good start.
Yeah, exactly. Fast-sighting Shadowwalk helps, for sure. The game plan as the Shadowwalk Shaman, though, isn't really, like, deal with the Token Druid stuff, because you can't, right?
That's what I was saying earlier,
yeah,
right?
Unless you line up, like, like, double Storm one turn, then you have, like, double Earthshock Volcano on another turn or something ridiculous. Like, you're never going to get through all of the Token Druid's waves. So your job as the Shadowwalk Shaman is to deal with enough of their stuff while also cycling as hard as you can, right? So your game plan sits halfway between turbo drawing and dealing with your opponent's stuff, and you just hope that you can complete your Shadowwalk combo before you're being threatened with lethal from the Token Druid.
And suddenly, right now, even Giggling Event into Soul the Forest. And that's a hard board to clear, and you have Branching Path Savage Roar, minimum. Plus the Druid Hero Power for +3 extra. Don't know about you, Sol, but I'm liking it. You've already seen a Volcano. You're asking NoName to have so many good cards to just survive. And if he uses them, well, you still have another Giggling Event. You have Whispering Woods. Hey, there's only so much you can do, and Hoej looks to be in agreement here in just saying, how do you ever realistically clear this board?
Volcano, Earthshock, Lightning Storm. Various combinations of said cards. Oh, sorry, that was a rhetorical question.
Yes and no. I mean, I enjoyed your answer. And it works. It's just that the problem is that's almost everything you've got right now, and Hoej can do this another 2 times, maybe 3.
Yeah, he still has to draw them though, and this hasn't. It's the difference between a UI game and a no UI game, right? For a token druid.
He did nourish for 3.
He did, but that's not a UI.
It's 2 off. Come on.
It's a big deal.
It is, but like I said, I genuinely feel so much of the cards in the deck share the role.
But Soul of the Forest is a very specific card that you have to draw in a lot of matchups. Nothing else does that job.
But now he doesn't need it. He's just seen double Volcano and a Lightning Storm.
Right.
What are the odds? Obviously it can happen, but if I was Hoej, I would feel fairly confident about dropping a Whispering Woods right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's reasonable because even if the last clear does come out, he still has a Giggling Inventor to go wide one more time and still be threatening to push damage.
I'm not gonna lie, Sol, you won't like it, but I was considering playing both.
Well, you can't anymore.
Not now, I mean, right at the beginning. Just drop it all, make it as awkward as possible just in case, but I don't think it's worth it because you had enough cards, right?
Yeah, there's so little merit in that because you get the same number of bodies almost this way anyway, right?
Might be some Divine Shields, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Divine Shields are great, but if the clear's there, the clear is there, right? You know, like, keeping the 1-2 Annoyatrons on the board isn't going to help too much.
That's a good one. Wait, does it even matter, though? Double Savage Roar branching pads. Sol, mass time. I'll do the countdown clock.
So each one will attack for 7, and he's going to get 3 attacks to 21. Yeah, should be.
Yeah, you got it. Cool. Yeah. That was really quick. The clock clearly needs to be set at a short time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't particularly complicated. They're getting buffed to 7, and 3 of them are hitting face, so I didn't even have to count.
There we go.
I didn't even have to count the hero damage. I didn't have to do any off-turning. I didn't even have to factor in the hero power. It was just simple, what do you call it, modular addition or something?
Yeah.